1991, Nintendo entered the 16-bit era with the release of the Super NES, dazzling players with launch titles like Super Mario World, F-Zero, SimCity, and Gradius 3. The heavyweight successor to the iconic NES had finally arrived, and it didn't take long for some of the most popular IPs from the OG console to find their way to the new platform for a supersized 16-bit makeover. One of my personal favorites just happens to be today's game. Super Castlevania IV was released shortly after the SNES launched and features the swansong of series favorite Simon Belmont as he takes on Count Dracula one last time in what would be his final outing in the starring role. With improved mechanics like total stare control and the addition of the multi-directional whip, this spiritual remake of the original game absolutely shines. Sporting a complete graphical upgrade that makes great use of Mode 7 and backed by an epic soundtrack, Castlevania IV remains one of the best entries of the entire series. Howdy doody. Wow. Remember when that name used to mean something? Well guys, I'm going to share an interesting stat here with you. I've had this channel since 2008, and it has spanned something like 200 videos. And a lot of them are playthroughs with commentary like this one on old school video games. However, nearly 15 years in, this is the very first Super Nintendo game that I've done a full playthrough on. And I'm just kind of gobsmacked at that. I was talking it over with my buddy the other day, and I kind of mentioned it to him, and he had the same reaction I did. He was like, "Really?" He's like, "I thought you've had Super Nintendo games up there before." And I've used clips and whatnot, but yep, this is the first full playthrough, and I can't tell you how excited I am that it's Super Castlevania IV. You might as well call this a launch title for the console. It didn't come out exactly when the Super NES dropped, but it was released shortly thereafter, in the same year. And for a title that came out that early on, basically when the Super NES was in its infancy, it's a freaking masterpiece. I mean, a lot of people consider this not only one of, if not the, best Castlevania games of the entire series, but it's in the conversation for one of the greatest video games of all time, and that's no exaggeration. I am completely on board with that. And for years it was kind of considered a loose sequel to Castlevania II Simon's Quest, kind of evidenced here a little bit by this opening scene, how the Dracula's tombstone is eerily similar to the one we see at the end of Simon's Quest. But there are certain things here that don't really match up. For starters, it's been 100 years since the last confrontation between Dracula and the Belmont family. If that's the case, then Simon Belmont, as we knew him at the end of Simon's Quest, would be long dead and buried. I mean, unless of course he's a vampire too. And at some point years later, this game was kind of cast aside. It was cast out of the canon storyline, and it's basically just considered to be a remake of the original game. You know, and I can kind of go with that, but still, in my mind when I play this, at least for me, I do kind of think of it still as a Simon's Quest sequel, even if the events taking place are vastly similar to the original game. You know, it kind of makes sense that Simon had to embark on the quest again, as we see Dracula's hand coming up out of the grave at the end of Castlevania II. Let's get this party started. Me and this game go way back. There are several features of this game that make it stand out from the rest of the series. Obviously, the, wait a second. Yeah, let's go ahead and get that out of our system here. But we've got a lot of improvements to the gameplay mechanics. Real quick, when I was a kid, I used to really kind of make a suspenseful moment out of this scene. It's like, come on, Simon, don't do it. You got time to get back. Come on. Reminds me of Friday the 13th 7. Simon, don't go in there! But he must. Otherwise, we have no game, and boy, wouldn't that have sucked. What a terrific game we would have missed out on. But the improvements of the mechanics that I was starting to talk about, obviously we have the multi-directional whip. You can swing it in 8 directions. We've got a lot better control of Simon's jumps. A lot better control on the staircases. His overall mobility has been greatly enhanced. And as I've already mentioned, for this being a game that came out in 1991, shortly after the Super NES was launched, man, they got so many things right here. Tight controls, great graphics, and good mix of fun and challenge. And another thing, obviously, being the soundtrack. It is highly revered amongst the fan base, and rightfully so. This is, in my opinion, the best soundtrack overall of any Castlevania game in the series, and it happens to have my favorite track of all time. I was kind of blabbering over it in the opening sequence there, but we'll hear it again later during the Dracula battle. And you talk about a track that gets right into my imagination, man. That one definitely does it. So, the music treatment in this game, absolutely fantastic. There are still certain things that happen in this game all these years later that the music greatly enhances for me, to the point of giving me goosebumps, especially that last scene with Dracula. And I remember renting this game quite a bit back in the day. It took me a while to own it for myself. I think it was, I don't know, probably sometime in the, probably sometime in the mid-90s before I finally picked up a copy, but I rented this thing like so many times. I spent many a weekend toiling through the adventures here during my, I guess 6th grade year, playing the heck out of this game. It's believed that these floating horse heads that we see here, which the manual cleverly calls Mr. Ed, is actually a pun off of the 1960s sitcom Mr. Ed. And considering the names they gave the Stage 6 bosses that we're going to see a little bit later, I can absolutely believe that. Being able to jump right onto these staircases is such a luxury. And that's something that was a great addition to the 16-bit era Castlevania. I really wish the multi-directional whip would have carried over to Rondo of Blood, but at least the stair control stayed in. Though the whip multi-direction, it would get partially restored for Bloodlines on the Genesis, but none of the 16-bit Castlevania games featured all the abilities that are seen here. I don't know, maybe they felt like this game was too easy, and it is. I mean, I don't know if I would say too easy. You know, I kind of agree with the consensus that I've read that the game is, it gets challenging in the right spots. You know, I think I've read that, and I agree with that. It's definitely not the most challenging Castlevania, but to call it too easy, I think is a bit of a stretch. You know, that there's plenty of challenging moments in it, as we'll see as we go along. As you see, there's lots of food and a variety of sub-weapons that you pick up along the way. Stuff to make the journey quite a bit easier than the regular NES titles. But you will never defeat me, Skeletor. And as usual, gots to pose for the end screen. That is a tradition for me in Castlevania games that'll probably never go away. You'll probably hear me geek out for the soundtrack here and there over the course of the game as I play through. There's so many great tracks at different levels here that really stood out to me when I was a kid. All these years later, it's just one of the many aspects that make playing through this one such a joy. Get off me. don't know if I feel comfortable with the level of contact these hands are making. They're getting awfully close to Simon's special place there. Like, for real. Bunch of undead perverts around here. And something else I've read in terms of some of the criticism on the game. Apparently a lot of people complain that Simon's too big, and I personally don't see what the problem is there at all. I mean, sure, there's a couple little spots here and there, kind of like here, where you know, it feels like it's a tight squeeze to get him in between certain platforms, but this is the Super NES. This is a 16-bit platform. Everything's bigger, much larger in scale. There's a lot more stuff going on the screen here than we've ever used to before. All the enemies are bigger. I mean, it's just a bigger game on a larger scale, and I think Simon's size is just fine.
I'll say.
Man, gotta tighten that up. This game has what I call kamikaze bats. These, I don't know if they're bats or I guess they're ravens or whatever. Well, the bats do it too. They just kind of hang around and they fire themselves from the top of the screen right down at you like a ballistic missile. I don't want to get in too big of a hurry here and take a bunch of unnecessary damage, even though there's lots of food stuffed away in these walls. I think out of all the Castlevania games, as far as the ones that I just like to pick up and play, Simon's Quest is right up there. The original game, obviously. This one is way up there. If I had to rank the Castlevania games, if I'm just looking at the first four in terms of my preference, I'm going to go Simon's Quest number 1. That'll never change. I will happily die on that hill. I know it's not the game that everybody enjoys, but I have a sentimental spot for it, and that'll never change. But not too far behind it, coming in at a close second, is this game right here. And as some of you hardcore Super NES scholars are probably already aware, the Super NES has 8 graphics modes for displaying background layers. They are numbered from 0 to 7. The last one, infamously titled Background Mode 7, has a single layer that can be scaled and rotated to create various effects, often resulting in what appears to be 3-dimensional graphics on a 2D platform. Castlevania IV was one of the first Super Nintendo games that really showcased the capabilities of Mode 7, most notably on that infamous rotating room that we're going to see a little bit later. It was pretty impressive stuff at the time. Alright. And that stage is a little bit odd. The placement of the enemy. It reminds me of Dracula's Curse, where you meet Medusa kind of right in the middle of the level. I used to play this on acoustic guitar a little bit. Not really. I tried, but... And as a lot of people know, this game was developed kind of in tandem, parallel to Castlevania III for the NES. They were being developed at the same time, along with Castlevania on the Game Boy. So they kind of had 3 different teams working on these games at the time. And for a minute, I used to be under the impression that Castlevania IV was basically going to be the 16-bit version of Dracula's Curse, because if you look at the way Simon looks, especially that hair, he looks a lot like Trevor. It's not the classic Simon that we remember from the first two games. So I haven't been able to find any actual validity or clarification on that, but just looking at him, yeah, I'm seeing a lot more Trevor than classic Simon. Just blindly speculating on that. Word is the director of Castlevania IV was a huge fan of the first game and wanted to kind of model this one after that, and obviously we see a great deal of similarities between the two. This game is considered a remake of that classic Castlevania. Patience, Willow. This game does a great job of building the atmosphere. The music in conjunction with a lot of the activities from the enemies, the Mode 7, the way the backgrounds are scrolling and whatnot, really go a long way. You know, you have the changes in music, goes a long way in kind of creating sort of a tense atmosphere, but one that's laid back at the same time in a lot of cases. Moving on. One thing about this game, in contrast with what you saw in the Dracula's Curse video, I'm not going to be quite as careful with the sub-weapons until much later on. This part of the game here, I really don't care what sub-weapons I have. Now later you will see me go for the triple shot boomerang, because that comes in handy as we get later into the game where the difficulty starts to ramp up a bit. But as of right now, I couldn't care less what sub-weapon I get stuck with. However, I will happily pass on the dagger. Does anybody like that weapon? I don't know. There doesn't seem to be a lot of support for the dagger in any of the Castlevania games. Screw it. Not worried about it. And we've got another music change here as we enter another part of the level. And this is where we encounter the gill men, fishmen, however the manual refers to them. But they've got an interesting ability in Castlevania IV. Plays off what we've seen from them in the past, but they're able to spit that liquid in kind of, dare I say, ejaculatory kind of way. I always thought it looked really funny. I'm sure we'll see it here as we encounter him again. Great. There's that weird eyeball from Simon's Quest showing back up here. There we go. Look. Don't get any of that stuff on me, brother. Ugh. Just got finished on. Alright. He got a little shower. We're good. Stepped through some kind of fountain of youth down there. Got him cleaned up a little bit anyway. Perfect. Yeah, those blocks are unforgiving, man. Doesn't take long for them to dissolve. And we're about to meet the twin dragons here, who I believe made their debut in Dracula's Curse, if I recall correctly. Unfortunately, I do not have Miss Sypha with me to assist in their demise, but not really needed in this one. The axe is going to take care of most of that for us. Bastard. Alright. And again, these little chicken legs, pork chops, roast chicken, whatever the hell, whatever they're called. You know, they're quite littered about, and the frequency that you encounter them. I mean, it's really hard to get down to the point where you're about to lose a life in many aspects. Alright, let me ask you guys a question. Man, careful. Don't want to get blasted off that platform. Yeah. Not too shabby. Huh. Well, that's a bit awkward looking. Good coffee. Had a shot of, I'll just call it iced tea before we got started here. Always loosens me up a little bit. There was a game developer called Factor 5 who once made a short demo of this game running on the Sega Genesis and pitched it to Konami, but Konami was like, Konami wouldn't go for it. Word is they preferred to keep their Genesis development in-house. They didn't want an outside company porting Castlevania IV to the system, so Sega fans got Castlevania Bloodlines instead. Look at this guy. Kinda looks like a xenomorph. The whip mechanics, I mean, they save your ass in this game, more often than not. The way some of the enemies are positioned, like I can't imagine navigating these levels with the traditional whip. Alright, let's do this quickly. I'll wait for that to go away. Getting close to that rotating room, which was quite a spectacle back in the day. I'll be hitting that here shortly. And it's like BW3s around here, man. Got wings all over the place. It's the kind of place I'd like to hang out in. Although if I'm going for wings, I prefer a place called Roosters. I think, not sure if they're national yet, but so this creature is known as Puweyxil. I guess that's how you say it. According to the North American Manual, spelled backwards, it reads, licks you up. And that's no joke. Like, that's seriously how they named this guy. But Rooster's wings are nice and meaty. Much better than B-dubs. I'm, kind of got over that place years ago. I don't know. Just no meat on them. A lost spelunker. all you young cats watching this video. Believe it or not, there was a time when this rotating stage was very impressive. Oh, come on, man. You can do better than that. But, yeah, that was pretty impressive for a video game back then. That's not something you saw very often. Definitely lost in the shuffle with today's technology, but back in '91, I mean, I remember anybody who saw this, they're like, "Whoa, cool, man. It's rotating." Yes, it certainly is. All right. Whee! Here we go. I remember back in the day, all the kids were talking about this level. And I'm using a little overclock right now. Otherwise, this was one of the stages that the infamous slowdown on the Super NES occurred. I don't think there's another level in the game where it hit harder than this one. So I am relying on a bit of an overclock here to remedy that problem. This is how the game was supposed to have been played back on the console itself, but fortunately emulation's given us the ability to get past that. Also gives us the ability to display the games in 4K, which I am a huge fan of. Alright, just gonna wait it out here. I don't want to get lifted up any higher than this because the place that we're looking for is right across the way here. And if you miss it, you gotta work your way all the way back to it. Kind of have to wait for the screen to kind of loop and reset itself before you can get over there. And it should be right through here. Yeah, that's where we need to be. No reason to get cocky through here. I'm gonna check here just to be sure. I'm sure there's nothing, but yeah, okay. Just wanted to be sure there was no hidden room over there. You think I would remember, but it's best to be thorough. Oh, yeah. Alright. And this Frankenstein's monster-looking guy made out of stone here is called Koranot. Another one of these funny little reverse spellings. Read backwards, it sounds like ton of rock, which is cute, I guess. Yeah, I'll show you something cute. Yay! And we do encounter Frankenstein's monster here in just a little bit, but I always thought that boss was oddly placed. He got caught trying to undress Medusa or something. We're knocking on the door. Once again, great music. Look who we got here. Huh. Just one? Is that all they sent? Alrighty. Eh, not so worried about that. Got more gargoyles hanging around. That looks like a long drop. Dracula's got some skilled landscapers working for him. It's almost as if he wants us to find the front door. And we got this nice, pretty blue path right up through the courtyard. And if I'm not mistaken, the freaking door's wide open. Suppose it's destiny. Oh no. Huh. What happened to him? He decided he didn't want to do business, huh? There we go. He did the job. Well, the multi-directional whip didn't save us there. Just whipping anything that moves, man. Ah, here we are. Check it out. Yep, front door's wide open. Well, might as well. Dominoes. We are inside the castle. Stage 6. Simon lives. And if we're talking about a Castlevania remake, this stage, it looks very much a throwback to Stage 1. Damn. On the original Castlevania game. I think we can safely say it was highly inspired by that level. And we have our boomerang axe throwing knights waiting to greet us, as well as these kamikaze bats that are pretty annoying, but as long as you read them out before they come after you, like this one. They're not too bad. Got an extra man. That'll serve us well. And I didn't touch on it in the beginning when I was putting my name in, but there's no help me code for 10 lives like there is in the third game. You know, it's shit like this that begs the question, what exactly does Dracula do in his spare time? You know, if he wasn't such a bloodsucker, you could actually sit down and have conversation with him, kind of figure out your common interest. He seems like a hell of a guy to party with on a Friday night. Castle's fun, man. Even got this weird kind of, I don't really call it a strobe light, but almost like some kind of half whorehouse. In Japan, the game was simply titled Akumajo Dracula, just like the original for the Famicom. And it's been said that this was to kind of signify a back-to-basics approach for the series. Of course, over here in North America, the game was titled Super Castlevania IV. Forever saddling it with Nintendo of America's weird, decades-long infatuation with naming their games after the console it runs on. So strange. Let's see. It's not this one. No. There's a hidden rune down here, and it's not that one either. It's the third one, I believe. Yeah, it's gotta be this one, but get him out of the way. Let's see. Yep. There we are. Oops. And this weird guy's gonna go mourn his ghost dog that was running around freely looking to take a bite out of somebody's soul. Sorry, man. Damn it. Oh, wow. I really got hosed on that one. Oh, that's right. These friggin' things. They remind me of asteroids on the Atari 2600. I swear that's what those things look like. And then you got these people hanging around. And their boss counterparts on this stage are referred to in the North American manual as Paula Abghoul and Fred Askare. Which is, that's something. Something to be said there for that. I was going to sarcastically use the word clever, but I'm just not even going to joke about that. Yeah. Definite throwback there. There was actually once a time where I could flip the score on asteroids on the Atari 2600. I remember that. Played it till I got 9s all the way across and the score flipped. Oh shit. Tried to do it again years later and didn't even come close. That was, I think, a skill lost in my childhood somewhere. Maybe I could do it again with much practice, but not something I'm going to be worried about. Oops. Let's see. They'll probably right themselves if I head back down the way here and get back up on that platform. Of course, all the enemies in this game respawn, so yeah, not this time. So, sans a reason, these floors should be right side up again when we get back to them. And they are. Alright, a little faster that time. Get out. Alright, let's do this quickly. I don't care what's in that candle. Ooh. Like I'm gonna be there, I'm gonna meet him. Oh, yeah, look at that. You can't destroy that coffin until it decides it wants to come after you. That's kind of a raw deal, but whatever. Can't complain about it too much, because this game does do the player a lot of favors along the way. Not going to harp on that too much. Yeah. Alright, got a triple back. Still not too worried about it just yet, but here pretty soon I'm gonna go after that triple shot boomerang and see if we can hold on to it the remainder of the game. Don't really care about it just yet. Boy, he eats good. No question about that. Definitely not a lack of protein around here. Receive the vitality. Lots of grabby hands, though. Eerily reminiscent of that second stage. They like to touch you around here. Oh, yeah, that's right. Have the ring of death waiting on us over here. Alright, let's get rid of these. And we have our altars of madness here, these frickin' tables that decide to attack you if you get too close to them. And apparently you cannot attack them until you get to their hitbox just right. Ah, here's the levers now. That's what you get. away from me. Y'all get a room or something. Like we have a room. In it. Huh. Wait a minute. What the hell's going on here? Oh, okay. I could have swore that brick was registering a hit when I was hitting it diagonally, but whatever. Okay. Oh, hold on. Man. Alright, the direct approach isn't working with these guys. Why don't we try not getting hit for a minute? There we go. Sweet. So the difficulty's beginning to ramp up a little bit with these bosses now that we're inside the castle. I think each hit there was taking 3 energy bars, so that's something we want to watch moving forward as we begin Stage 7, The New Blood. Ah yes, the Haunted Library. Don't know why I took the time to take out that knight over there. I'm sure he'll respawn by the time we get over there. Or not. Huh. Oh, it's selective respawning. I can dig it. Unless he just changed positions, but that's probably not the same guy. Oh yes. Gotta love the whip in this game. And it's gotta be one of the greatest weapons ever. I know I mentioned it earlier, but I hate that they switched it back in the next game, which was Rondo of Blood. Yeah, let's go ahead and grab it. There's a really pissed off knight at the end of this stage that the triple shot will definitely be a vital piece of destroying him. And here's these guys again. Remember them from Dracula's Curse? I do. See if we can stop them from completely whoring out the operation here. And we've got haunted books now too that like to flap around and attack us if we leave them on screen for too long. Let's get rid of him. And we're just working our way down. Yeah. Is that garlic parmesan? That's what I'm talking about. Get away from me. Nope. Not today. Alright. Be a little stealthy. Not really stealthy, just strategic, I suppose, with the way these guys are positioned here. And how to try to avoid their axe play. These guys established the whole axe throwing trend that we see these days. They were the OGs back then. And we'll wait on that. There we go. Yeah, very good. Okay. An interesting tidbit about the woman in the portrait here. She is technically listed as Grabbing Portrait, I believe is her confirmed enemy name. However, going all the way back to issue number 32 of Nintendo Power, which covered Castlevania IV, there's a foldout in the middle of the book, and the woman in the portrait there is referred to as Dracula's mother, which I always thought was interesting. Whether it's true or not, who knows? I mean, I guess canon, shall we say, seems to be against it, because I haven't seen that stated anywhere else, but I do remember it being in that issue. So, people at Nintendo Power having a little fun with it, I guess. Alright, there's the double. And let's see if I can work on these stupid bats over here. There we go. Nice. Wow. Oh shit. Got Brutus here with the frickin' club. Now we're ready to rock and roll. Yep, there he is. He's back. And he's whoring out the candles. That's what you get. This thing's always been a curiosity piece for me. What the hell is that exactly? I mean, yeah, it's a centipede, millipede, or whatever, but it's the only time such a creature appears in the game, and I want to say it's invulnerable. I don't think there's anything you can do to stop it, unless I'm not remembering things right. The only thing you can really do is just get out the way and wait for him to move on. God, I love the abundance of wings around this place. This is a long level. This might be definitely one of the longer stages in the game. There it is. Like Children of the Corn, man. Alright, well, we should be good now. Now I'm going to be a lot more careful in the candles that I break. I'm going to try to protect this triple shot for as long as I can. I'm going to try to hang on to it to the end of the game, if at all possible. It's definitely going to help us when we get to this angry knight here in a second. But yeah, I'm going to start screening these candles now, because I don't want to get stuck with anything other than this. Let's see if we can get these bats again. There we go. Here we are. Let's light this dude up, man. Okay, well, we gave him one hit. There you go. That's all you get. What's this? Shit. Simon takes Manhattan. Here we go. Now we're in the dungeon. And again, that was very similar to the way they did it in the first game. Obviously, you didn't get to see, the previous stage collapse and fall apart under you in the original Castlevania, but as you remember, Simon kind of falls down and descends into the bowels of the building down in the dungeon area where he meets Frankenstein's monster, which is the same thing that happens here. And here's where the difficulty starts to ramp up a bit. This stage has got a lot of obstacles to avoid. There's a lot of death traps here and there, and there's some tricky jumping that takes place toward the end of the level. A little bit of it prior to that, but there's some blocks that disappear and reappear you gotta be really careful of, not to get stuck in outside of their rhythm per se. Hey! What the does one boomerang, does it only get one hit per fireball from that thing? And it just goes through the rest of them? Appears to be the case. No sweat. And touching again on the easy difficulty consensus about this game. You know, it was part of the plan for the developers to give Simon some added ability, some more skill versus the original game, so they could make the experience a little bit easier, and I'm sure they were hoping that more gamers could get into Castlevania as a result. I've seen some pretty biased reviews here and there who really pile it on with the "it's too easy" complaint. And for some, hey, maybe it is. Me? I think the challenge level's fine and balanced out pretty well. And I'll add a little perspective to that. You know, the goal was for them to remake the original game with a focus on leveling out the difficulty because a lot of people found it too hard. Interesting contrast, as you guys saw in my Castlevania 1 playthrough, I didn't die one time in that run, and if memory serves, I don't think there were many instances where I was really in a lot of trouble, unless I'm mistaken. Castlevania 4 though, there's been a few times here and there where I've kind of been pushing it. I could have gone down if I wasn't careful. So, you know, I guess it's different for everybody, but I do feel that the amount of people who are unhappy about this perceived lack of challenge in this game, I'd wager they're probably pretty outnumbered by the crowd who passed on the original NES trilogy altogether, because for them, it was just too hard. So I can see why they wanted to ease up a little bit. They definitely did that, but I still don't think it was too much. Like, I'm not disappointed with how you can kind of coast through this game at times, because I enjoy the experience. I enjoy playing through it. I love listening to the soundtrack. I love all of this spooky stuff everywhere that looks like it was something straight out of one of those classic Universal films, kind of carrying on the tradition of Hitoshi Akamatsu and the world that he built in the first 3 Castlevania games. This was the first title where he was not involved, not counting the Game Boy games. But if you're insistent that the game's too easy, try hard mode. Yep, you heard that right. Castlevania 4 has a hard mode. A lot of people who complain about it being too easy seem to overlook that. It is there. And if you don't want to bother playing through the game one time to unlock it, there's passwords that'll take you right to it. Google is your friend. And there's several elements of Castlevania 3 that didn't make the transition over to Part 4 here, like the buddy system and being able to choose different pathways to Dracula. But one mechanic they did carry over is the password system. Here we see the same symbol grid as in Dracula's Curse, and taking things a slight step further, they were nice enough to include a password page in the instruction manual where players could write in their favorite passwords for safekeeping. And I never did this myself, but I imagine it was quite a sight watching a kid take the time to draw in little depictions of hearts and axes and jars of holy water, especially for people like me who can't draw a freaking lick. And speaking of Mr. Akamatsu, I didn't know this when I was recording the Dracula's Curse playthrough, but apparently he's missing in action, and has been for a long time. Nobody knows where the guy is, and from what I've read, many attempts have been made to try to locate him, and no one's been successful yet, so I think it's assumed that he's alive and well somewhere in Japan, but nobody can seem to track that guy down, which really sucks because I'd love to hear an interview with him about the Castlevania games because he started the whole thing. You know, it'd be great to get some of that guy's insight and hear the stories behind the making of those original games. There's another one. You see what I mean? About all these pork chops everywhere. Now, these walls are chock full of them. Bet to give me some of those breakfast chops. Wonder if we can find those somewhere. Have Simon season them up all nice and Cajun-like. That'd be good eating. I used to have a video about that on the channel, actually. Well, it's technically still there, if you know the link. And here we are on the platform. As you can see, you've got to be really careful here in how you time this. One wrong move can send you plunging to your death. But once you get a pretty solid read on it, you can kind of see a pattern. And go ahead and start to move. Great. There we go. Well, it was worth taking the extra time to kind of figure it out and not cost ourselves any lives. As we say hello to Mr. Frankie. And much like the Castlevania 3 video, make short work of him. Simon Goes to Hell. The final ball whip. Yet another reason you want to hang out with Dracula. You can strike up a friendship with him. Dude's loaded like Scrooge McDuck. This is the Transylvania money bin. This is a stage where you want to engage some patience. You want to be a little bit more careful. It's not quite as smooth sailing through here as it has been, and we kind of started to see that on the last level, but things are not letting up from this point forward. Let's see if we can get under here. Stupid bat. And if you're going to make this jump, you have to approach it from this angle. There we are. And there ain't shit up here. A big heart, okay. Hoop-de-damn-do! I'd rather experience buggy play control being stuck on the steps versus falling off of them. That's another thing I think some people have criticized this game. Hold on. How about that way? But some people I think have complained a little bit about the stair mechanics, that they're a little too touchy, like you kind of stick to them like glue. I'll happily take that versus the problem we had in the older games, which was falling off of them. We all remember my epic blunder on Dracula's Curse, where I fell right off the ledge on the last stage. Yeah, I'll happily take the issue of being stuck upon the steps for an extra second or two versus plunging to my untimely death. Sheet. Sweet. Alright, see if we can make this one. There we go. Nice and easy. Perfect. Nope. I don't want that. And moving right along. Son of a bitch. Yeah, I'm definitely going out for wings when I get finished with this video. No question about it at this point. I am in the mood. Oh, look. Yeah, screw that coffin. I don't care what's up there. And this is a spot where we need to get to that middle platform and over the right one quickly. A little too soon there. There we go. Because you can't get stuck on the middle blocks and there's no way over there. You have to kill yourself and start over. Where's the fun in that? Those guys always reminded me of, from He-Man. I used to have that guy, the figure back in the day. Are we there yet? Are we there yet? And I love how Simon's not interested at all in the gold baubles here and the roofies. And I said roofies. Rupees. I'll be looting my pockets so I can go get them wings later. He does get the money bags out of the candles. Those are definitely an object of interest for him. Yeah, screw it. And another one. I love it. All right. Finally, I think we're here. Yep. It's the money bat. I don't think we're going to catch him with these. Not in that state, anyway. No. Okay. Gotta get underneath him. No, hold on. Trying to catch him when he swoops down, but in the meantime, just not scoring enough damage here. And I'm taking way too much from the bleeding taxation, whatever you want to call it. It's raining down upon me. There we go. Now we can get him. Yeah, this should do it. Pop. Hey. Try to get the pose there and must not have hit it in time. Oh, there it is. Delayed reaction. I thought I did the correct input there. Alright, shit's about to get real. No Castlevania game would be complete without the Clock Tower stage. As we hear a wonderful rendition of Bloody Tears, one of the most popular tracks in the soundtrack library of the Castlevania series. Definitely one of my favorites from my beloved Simon's Quest, but not my favorite track overall. That one we're going to hear in just a little bit. Nope. I know I kind of talked about it before, but you young cats that might be watching this video, it'd be really hard for, I guess, the youth of today to appreciate what a graphical upgrade Castlevania IV was over the original trilogy. Just looking at all the stuff that's going on here, you got the great soundtrack, so many things that are so far beyond the memory limitations of the original NES. I remember back in '91 just being completely blown away by the presentation of this game. Whoa, a little too close there. Ah, almost got me. We must be careful moving forward. Wait. Man, if that hitbox was a little more unforgiving, kind of like it was, say, in Castlevania III, I think we would have got shuffled off that platform down there. Shit. Man, I should have been ready for that. Got falling gears. We've got full gear. As was the case with Dracula's Curse, there's a handful of regional differences dealing with censorship between the original Japanese game and the North American release. Most of these are the removal of crosses that are scattered about on different things, mostly in the background decor. All of these were removed for the North American version, with the exception of the rosary item, which to me is an interesting omission. Like, I guess it was okay to suggest a holy cross can make evil disappear, but somehow it was a no-no to assume there's holy peace in death or something. Who knows what the rationale was back then. Other notable cuts are blood, which is no surprise given Nintendo's reputation in that era, especially back in those days. Blood is removed from the title screen, and in Stage 8, where what's supposed to be pools of blood and blood drippings, they were changed to what I guess we're supposed to assume is some kind of green poison, because that's more fun. And lastly, the one that really irks me are the statues in Stage 6. In the Japanese version, they're partially nude with exposed breasts. And of course, in the North American release, they were all covered up because, you know, we can't be having that shit. Ay. Not out of here just yet. Man, that was close. Now there's one area where things are a little buggy when you're trying to swing the whip and these things are around. I mean, you know, maybe it's put in place specifically to enhance the challenge of the area, but I think the placement of them versus the enemies, a little more care could have been taken into account, if we're nitpicking. More chicken. All day. Must be game day at the House of Dracula. And again. Oh, we're changing tactics now. Okay. Well, I can change too, big boy. You hear me, Band-Aid? One last gasp. Precisely. All right. Here we go. This is the finale. Are you ready? And here's a familiar soundtrack. Hello, Vampire Killer. Ooh, careful. Check out that jump control. Something else we didn't have in the old games, unless you're playing one of the hacked versions. Alright, let's get up out of here. Here's another area where the overclock comes in handy. This is a spot where you definitely would have had to slow down again. There's just too much on screen for the memory of the Super NES. But not a problem these days, fortunately. Man, I love the bridge in the background there with the mountains. It reminds me of Simon's Quest so much. Yeah, anyway. Speaking of which, here's the soundtrack from the town in Castlevania II. And this is another stage that reminds me a lot of that one level in Dracula's Curse where you've got to beat the screen as it kind of falls off beneath you. In this case, we've got the spinning spike ball, or whatever the hell that is that we got to stay ahead of. Not too difficult to do, but yeah, a lot of similarities between Castlevania 3 and 4. Right down to the look of the playable character. They call him Simon in this game, but looks a lot like Trevor to me. There was a guy I used to work with named Simon. I used to call him Simon Belmont. He probably didn't know what the hell I was talking about. I don't know if I ever told him. I'd be like, Simon Belmont. He'd just kind of look at me, so I guess he didn't know. Kind of reminds me of that douchebag from Cobra Kai, that Kyler, I think his name is. The guy kind of looked like him, now that I think about it. Alright, let's go. Uh-oh. That was a little close. Alright. Now here's a portion of the stage I remember playing through many, many times back in the day. Let's see if I still remember the pattern here. Mr. Dino douche. Yeah. Your sensei teach you how to fight with spear? I guess that's more of a trident. Yeah, this guy's not too bad. Just gotta remember the pattern. And you don't want to hit him too soon. You want to let him get a little close to you so you've got a little more space between the two of you when he comes back down. There we go. Colorful death. Some medium sauce there, please. Alright, there's a big ass gargoyle here, if I remember right. Yeah. Yeah, this ought to light him up. There we go. And he's trolling right through him. Little homage to Friday the 13th, the game here. Let's give him a little gargoyle teabagging. This can only mean one thing. Hello, old friend. I expected him to throw more of those. Oh, yeah. One more pop. Not bad. Here's my favorite part of the game. Oh, yeah. All these years later, I still get goosebumps right here. Nobody will ever convince me that's not the most badass soundtrack in the entire Castlevania series. It can't be done. And I skipped the hidden platform there. I'll throw it up on the screen in post, what it looks like. There's no reason for me to risk falling off the ledge like I did on the Dracula's Curse playthrough. I have all the items that you get anyway, except for like 50 less hearts. Not really worried about that. Let's dance. I have always wondered though, why does Dracula have red hair? Or orange hair, like whatever's going on here. It's a interesting look. And his head does change here as the battle goes on. He kind of reverts to his cryptic, more undead looking self, but never really understood what's going on with the Fanta hairdo he's got there. There we go. Light him up. Ah, that was dumb. Should have hit those with the whip. See, he's still throwing out those wings, man. Alright. Here's where he looks proper. That's what he's supposed to look like. Sheet. Don't want to take too many of those. Yeah, these boomerangs are doing the job. Oh shit, got him. And he changes back. I don't get that. Badass. Ah, that's terrific. And again, another kick-ass soundtrack comes in. And normally in the past playthroughs, I've kind of let the final track play on without me speaking in it. This has caused me problems. There's a fraudulent person. Somehow they've gotten to claim the content ID on a lot of the Castlevania stuff, and I've had to file disputes for fake copyright claims by whoever this entity is, so my apologies. I'm going to have to talk over this track instead of letting it play out a little bit like I've done in the past games. Stupid. But, as I look back, this is one of the Castlevania games that are near and dear. This one's almost as near and dear to me as Simon's Quest, trailing just behind it. I spent a lot of time with this game as a kid, and it never failed to entertain. And there's certain parts of the soundtrack, like I said before, that still give me goosebumps to this day. Certain things that go on the way up here, especially after the finale right before Dracula, when you're walking down that hall and the torches start to light and that cool soundtrack starts to play. That was the main reason why I would put in the code to get to stage B and play through the entire thing just to get to that moment. You know, that's how cool I thought it was back then. This has been a fun ride to take. As I've said many times before, playing through these old games unlock a ton of memories for me. It's always a riveting experience to kind of put my mind back in a past era of my life and sort of live vicariously through this strange illusion I see while I'm there. It's therapeutic. I'm definitely a sucker for nostalgia, but it's that kind of therapy that continues to drive me creatively in a lot of different ways. And as 2022 comes to a close, we're about to enter the 15th year of the channel. Man, thinking back to 2008, when I first started this thing with a freaking VHS camcorder, a Pentium 4 PC that was already obsolete with its 128 meg graphics card. I had some crappy microphone that resembled a cat toy, and some early bare bones version of Pinnacle Studio. Ugh. And that first round of equipment, something to behold 15 years later, let me tell you. Like literally, we'd shoot on VHS. From poor lighting quality to the horrible battery performance. Remember NiCad batteries? Yeah, they sucked. To the limited storage confines of VHS, man, the process was a total chore. And if it was an outdoor shoot, I'd have to make sure I packed a handful of extension cables with me, you know, to try to hook into an exterior power outlet on a building somewhere. And in extreme cases, I'd even resort to plugging into an inverter that was connected to my car battery. And when filming Wrapped, if I had 4 hours of raw video, it took 4 hours to feed it all into my editing machine.
4 hours?
Yep. You know, I had to play it real time while my hard drive recorded it, like a VCR. And that was a ton of extra work for a mere 480 resolution back then. I mean, we're talking about the kind of process nobody should be doing 8 years into the new millennium. But that was my journey. And thankfully, I had tons of inspiration and the drive to put it to work despite all that outdated equipment, and forced myself to learn and get better stuff. And it was during those years when I realized I need the creative process. You know, I need it in order to stay in balance mentally. As I think about all that, I'm reminded that creative inspiration is always worth exploring, and your creative visions, whatever they are, they're always worth taking the time to see to fruition. Back in 2008, I had no idea what this channel would be or how long it might last. I just knew I had creative energy that needed a place to go, and I felt like I had some stories to tell that people I share common interests with might find entertaining. And as we enter the 15th year, very little has changed. So, whether this video gets 500 views or 500,000, if somebody out there gets something out of it, it served its purpose. I want to thank all my subscribers for supporting the channel over the years. Whether you've been here for a week, a year, a decade, or since the very beginning, and I've heard from a couple of you. A few years ago, one of you told me you've been watching me since you were 6 years old, and by then you were like 19. That is mind-blowing to me. To you and everyone else who gets something positive out of my stuff, it's been an honor and a privilege. You guys make it worthwhile for me to continue to take the time to do this. It's been a great year, and I look forward to seeing you all in 23. Be well, guys, and thanks for watching.